All right, everybody, welcome to an episode of Aces Asylum. I am joined by the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, the Matt Porter. What's up, Matt?
Ace, to get an introduction like that, I'm feeling great.
My man, man. So I finally got to meet you. What was it? In November?
Kiss Cruise back in November. We had the best
Yeah.
time. I was thrilled, but I came walking out of the front of the casino, and there you were.
I had just gotten off the airplane and we pulled up.
Oh,
We got out of the Uber and I see Matt walking out of the hotel. First person I saw on that trip.
woo!
What a hell of a weekend that was,
That
huh?
was. I really enjoyed it. I don't see going back again this year in the cards for me, really,
I
just
can't
because of
I
money.
can't this year.
But
Yeah.
I thought it was great. I mean, to get that many different shows. I mean, obviously to get that much Kiss, and then really highlights. I loved seeing Rat and Black and Blue and the Kiss tribute bands, which were
They
phenomenal.
were great.
And I love going out to Las Vegas. It's so much fun.
It's my favorite city, yeah.
The Rio, the mini golf, and the museum and all that. It really, you can't beat it.
No, not at all. See, I even got this little tattoo here.
Look at that. Well done.
So when they said Kiss was coming to Vegas, it was like my two favorite worlds colliding. You know,
Woo!
um, I mean, I think the highlight for me was well, I'm a big Stanley Simmons fan. I got to meet them um in one of the casinos. I ran into them. That was pretty cool. As far as band wise go, I think Rat really impressed me the most. Thought they were awesome. Well, in Bruce's band, I've never seen Bruce before, so that was cool to finally see.
I think in a lot of ways, Bruce's band stole the show.
Oh, I feel like they
I
always do.
I feel like hearing him play a lot of those songs was really amazing.
Oh,
Joe McGinnis, who handled a lot of guitar for the different bands, he is phenomenal.
oh,
To me, really, Black and Blue. I've been a fan of Black and Blue since really Without Love album, but I'd never seen them live. And so I was just kind of thrilled to see Black and Blue live. I mean,
yeah.
really something that Rat I had seen a bunch of times before, but I really enjoyed seeing them. When you're sitting there and you see Stephen Pearcy, I mean, that's one of the faces of early MTV. So even now, when you see him come out, it's like, oh, look, there's Stephen Pearcy. I enjoyed that.
See, I'm a big Warren DeMartini fan.
It was great to see them together. I
I
mean,
love
really,
that. Yeah, I never thought that would happen either after all the fallouts and everything. So,
right. You're right.
did you do that the walkthrough where you got to meet everybody?
I did not do any of the
No.
meet and greet. The only meet and greet I actually did was Kiss, which I have a
Oh, I
great
did see
photo
that.
of me and
Yeah, yeah,
Kiss.
yeah.
But and it's funny because when I walked up in to get that photo, um, Tommy Thayer gives you the fist bump. Paul gives me a fist bump and he says, "Hey, it's Michael McDonald," which at first he goes, and I go, "I keep forgetting," and he goes, "Yeah, you look just like him," and he was totally cracking up. Which I don't really know what Michael McDonald looks like.
I don't. I would have to Google him.
I guess a fat guy with a chin beard, and you go like, I don't know, but I mean, obviously that's somebody with one of the greatest voices of rock. And then I got a fist bump from Gene Simmons, and then of all of them, of the four, Eric Singer was the one who gave me a guitar pick. Somebody that's not known for playing guitar, but
Yeah, not at all.
it was. I mean, really, anytime you walk up on them, it's still just special, and it's. I enjoyed that.
You know, I
I did meet Jamie St. James in the just in the casino walking around, and obviously I went to the Tommy Thayer when they were releasing Thayer
I
St.
tried to
James
get into
CD.
there. It
Yeah,
was too crowded.
I got there pretty early. I was waiting in line pretty early for that, so I was thrilled to get their CD from them. I thought that was really nice. So
Now that's that new EP they just put out, right?
yeah, it's good.
It's good. Um, I've met Kiss a couple times, and everybody always says, you know, Gene is such a dick and all that. but he's been the nicest member I've met every single time.
You know, anybody out there, if you're watching this, you probably have heard me tell my Gene
Yeah.
Simmons stories on the Kiss Room. I mean, obviously, the Cologne signing nightmare from 2006. Other than that, then the meet and greet of 2009 was a great one. I've had a lot of good experiences meeting Gene. I've never had the kind of crusty ones that a lot
No.
of people complain about. So
And I
that
hear it every
Cologne
time. All
one,
times.
it's a story. The reason why I enjoy that now is because the story is good. But at the time, I was pretty just pissed off at him. But
Well, let's hear it. I haven't heard this one.
have you never heard the? Okay, if you listen to the Kiss
Oh.
Room, so it's October 12th, 2006, and Gene Simmons is at the Oxford Valley Mall. Which, if there's a rock and roll center of the universe, that's about as far from it as you're going to get. It legit is a mall. And my friends and I, so shout out Bob Brodsky and Doe and her cousin Barb and my friend Carl. We went to the mall when only the people, nothing's open yet, and the people are walking around in a circle, getting, their mall walking in. And we sat there on the floor for probably about 8 hours and just waited for him to come out. And over time, the place is packed. And my friend actually got a lot of it on video because that's what he did. He was a video guy, and he captured a lot of this. Well, about 20 minutes before this thing is supposed to start, this woman comes out and she gets on the speaker and she says, the only things that Mr. Simmons is going to sign are the cologne bottles, because
Oh,
he's pitching the Kiss
the
cologne at the time.
fragrance line they did. Yeah.
And you could hear this come across the crowd. People are pissed because everybody has something that they want to get signed,
Oh,
not the stupid cologne bottle. And the
yeah,
funny
yeah.
thing is that I had this 8x10 that was already signed by Ace and by Peter and by Paul. And the only thing I need to make this 8x10 complete
Is
is
that
Gene's signature.
the big one?
No, that's a different
With
one.
the fire? Okay.
I got a million stories, but this was just an 8x10. And the funny thing is, so I'm about fourth or fifth in line. They let some kid in line who was probably like the nephew of one of the women that was putting on the event, and he had a bass with him. And about 5 minutes before they start, his grandmom even came up and took the bass away and kind of gave him the, you're not allowed to get your shit signed. Oh, I don't know if we're allowed to curse. Sir, I don't curse on my show. But
It's okay.
this still gets me wound up. So anyway, I'm now the next in line, and I have all this on video. I'm the next in line. There's some mall cop who is pissed, and he says to me, you can't go up on the stage if you're trying to take that 8x10 picture. You can only get your cologne bottle. And I said, I'm not handing this away to you. This is like really, important to me.
Yeah.
Oh, he's pissed. So anyway, I hand it to him because I still want to go up and get an autograph. And Ace, I'm not kidding you, I'm now nose to nose arguing with Gene Simmons about how, Gene, everybody here has something cooler for you to sign. You got to let us get our stuff. And he now you figure I'm about fifth in line. He's got a lot of people to go. And who is this mutant babbling on about, and I'm saying things like, Gene, you have taught us we don't listen to them. We listen to you. It's you. And he just says to me, he goes, no, it's their event. It's their rules. And he is talking to me through a clenched teeth smile. And he says, I will sign it later. And he gives me this look of later. And I get the autograph on the cologne bottle, and you can see the people at work there are now forming a circle. They're going to tackle this mutant and drag me off the stage. It's really funny. And in retrospect, and so anyway, they pull me off the stage and I leave, and then we go back to the Chi-Chis. And Bob, if you're listening, you're laughing out loud. Felix, if you're listening, I'm eating my French fries and I'm pissed at the Chi-Chis or wherever we went. And so that is October 12th, 2006. Now here's why that date is important, because in the meantime, in 2009, They have a contest through Kiss Online where you have to make a video telling people why you are the ultimate Kiss fan. And you had to make a video. And I'm not even kidding you, Ace. When they announced it was probably a Friday. I had my video already edited and up on Monday. I'm the first one. Everybody that entered that contest, and I'm fairly sure this, watched my video first, right?
Yeah.
And all summer, I was a mental patient because I would look every day to see who uploaded a better video. Could I beat them? It was like literally like crazy. Like, you know,
Yeah.
you look at some of them and you go, okay, that's not going to be a problem. That's not
That
going to be a
one's
problem.
okay.
Well, and
It's not
then
as good.
you'd see people like the Kiss Army Vixens, these two very attractive women in their
Uh-oh.
little Kiss Army Vixen outfits,
Uh-oh.
and you go, I can't beat that, right? And the funny thing is, so all summer, and even my friend Bob calls me, he says, I really want to make a video. And I'm like, of course we're gonna make a video. And but it consumed my stupid mental mind all of summer of 2009 because it started in like May of 2009. So anyway, the short story really long, I won one of the 5
Wow.
winners, and the
All that
prize
worrying paid
and
off.
all that worrying had paid off. And the thing that's funny is that the prize was substantial. It was a meet and greet. You could choose that you wanted the meet and greet, and so I actually remember, so we went there that night, and it was me and you could take a guess, and my friend Bob went, and this is 2009. So it is the exact same date, October 12th, but now 2009. So isn't that
Wow.
cosmic?
That's
And
insane.
here's the funny part. So first you get to go around and you get, you get a photo with the band, which I love. I have a really good photo with the band. And then we get to go around again. Now you can get whatever you want signed.
Uh-oh. I know
And
it's coming.
here comes that 8x10. And I say, and like I literally come around and I said to Gene, do you remember when you were at the Oxford Valley Mall and they wouldn't let you sign anything but the cologne bottle? And he kind of rolls his eyes like, yeah. And I said, well, that night you said you would sign it later. Now is later.
It's later.
Now, here's the funny part.
Did you tell him it was to the date?
You know what? I don't even know if I remember saying the date, but the funny thing is now, this is pre-show. So there's a team of people that are standing there that clearly are there to make sure that Mr. Simmons is happy. And why is this mutant, going on and on about some Oxford Valley
He's
Mall?
back.
And the funny thing is, so when I said that, he's wearing the full makeup. They're 20 minutes from going on stage. He looks as powerful as he can be. I see him. He stands up even straighter, puffs his chest out. Like, of course I would make good on my promise. I'm sure you don't remember that, right?
Yeah,
but anyway,
right.
He signs the 8x10, and then he puts his arm around my neck, and I have the greatest photo of
I know the photo.
He's laughing, I'm laughing.
One.
And it's my favorite picture. It's one of my favorite pictures of anything to do with Kiss. And then legit, about 5 minutes later, they're like, okay, guys, we got to go. And they leave for the stage. And my friend Bob and I, we make a beeline. We got to get to our seats. We couldn't have been more than 2 minutes and the show started. So that's the Gene Simmons cologne story, which I always feel is very funny. And anybody that was there that day, you probably remember, you probably booed me. But look, I was fighting for all of us. So
it's something we would all do. Let's be honest.
I was early. Like I was like I said, 5th in line. I really had hoped to turn the tide for all of our
sometimes I've seen it work before. It all depends, really.
You never know.
So Gene was hugging you, and then 20 minutes later he was spitting fire.
He could not have been nicer, and they were all super nice. I mean, that's like when I say, different meetings, that was the one at the mall was bad, and I left really mad. And then everything else has always been good.
That's awesome. That reminds me of the time I met Ace. I drove 6 hours away to Wilkes-Barre, PA.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's about 6 hours. It's past State College from where I'm at. And Drove 6 hours to go to a mall. Free meet and greet.
Yep, I remember this.
Were you there?
I didn't go.
You don't live that far, right? That's got to be
I'm
close to
probably
you.
I'm probably only an hour and a half up the turnpike.
Yeah,
I
right.
can't remember why I didn't go to that. It was because I went to the show at the Kirby Center,
Yeah.
and I've been to the Kirby Center to see him in Allentown, and I was there. I think I saw him twice at the Kirby Center, but I don't know why. I know which mall you're talking about, but I don't know why I
Mm-hmm.
didn't go to that.
It was
I don't
like
know.
at a FYE store or
Yeah.
something,
Yep.
and Origins One was coming out, and
Right.
if you bought the album, you could get it signed and shake his hand or whatever. No pictures allowed with them. I had
Right.
somebody take one from the distance, but um, I just kept buying CDs. I kept going back in line, meet him again, get another one signed, and then I would buy. I think they had Creatures of the Night at the store. They
Wow.
said I don't think you could bring anything. I think you had to get it at the store. I think was the rule.
The only thing Mr. Fraley will sign is
Yeah,
the only
Origins
thing Mr.
One
Simmons
or
will
another
sign.
something else you bought here, but he
Ah,
was he was ace, but the show was great. That was with Richie Scarlett and Chris Wilde and Scott Coogan. That was one of the better shows I've seen. I loved that lineup.
yeah, it's funny. I've seen him with and without Richie, and Richie
Yeah.
Scarlett really brings in really insane amount of energy. But
Yeah.
and I've seen him several times with what you'd call the Ace Frehley band. Those guys, Ryan and Jeremy and sometimes Phil, and those
Hmm.
guys are so great, and they really put on such a show with him. So I've seen that lineup a couple of times as well. In fact, really, I saw it would have been the end of last summer. It was August, the end of last summer, that he played the Allentown Fairgrounds, and it ended up being about third from the last show. So it
Oh
was at
shit.
that, which even that, the funny thing with that, we talk about seeing Rat and things like that. It was Quiet Riot, which really Rudy Sarzo's the only one that kind of
Right.
in that original realm, and Great White. I don't know if any of them are from. I think Mark
I don't
Kendall
think
maybe,
so.
but which
Yeah.
was they were good. But even that Quiet Riot was great. Like, and you go really, but as soon as you saw Rudy Sarzo come out, it's 1983. You go look at
Yeah.
that guy. And he's like
Yeah.
he's in his 70s, but he still looks great.
He looks great. Him
Still
and
looks like
Tommy
Quiet
Aldridge.
Riot. They're
Yeah.
really the yeah, that ended up being one of the last shows for Ace. And totally off topic. I don't know how we got there.
Yeah, I don't either, but so yeah. Back on topic, Kiss. Well, I hit you up the other day and we're talking about what to talk about today, and something we found common ground on was the album Psycho Circus, right?
Well, I
Yeah,
think you said that was your first Kiss
that
out.
was my first Kiss. I
Yeah.
remember my dad picking me up from my grandma's house, and I can't even remember what I ate for breakfast this morning, right? I don't know how I remember this. I remember getting in the car, and he just got a new car, and I was all worried that the new Kiss CD, because I was pretty young, and Psycho Circus had just come out, and I wanted to hear this new Kiss CD. I wanted to hear it, and I was worried it got left in the old car. It's like, Dad, you have the new Kiss CD, right? And I just remember he turned it on, and Psycho Circus, that was the first Kiss song.
So it's funny because you're very young. I'm very old. I'm about 30 by the time Psycho Circus comes out. And the odd thing is, a lot of as we talk about the album, a lot of it is very much colored by where I was at the time,
Hmm.
because my older daughter had just been born in November of 97. So by the time this album comes
Okay,
out, like
yeah.
September 98, my mind was in a whole other world. Like, you think about, like, just years prior was the reunion tour. which was amazing. Seeing them, I saw that tour at the Garden. I saw it in Philly. I have great memories of that
Wow, at
tour.
the Garden. That'd be
It,
incredible.
well, and it was fun because it was one of those things where, by the time this album came out, I'm looking for any kind of, fun, and it was stressful, being a new dad, and there's a lot of my memories of that time are very much tied to what was going on in the real world for me. So Kiss has always been the fantasy world, and suddenly they were kind of intertwining because now I was in a totally different place.
Mindset had
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
It changed. And look, I'll say this: a lot of obviously the Kiss fan base spans generations, but it's one of those things when you have a child, you take the book of your youth and you scribble on the end of this book and you put it on the shelf, and now you write a
Mm-hmm.
new book called The
Start a
Rest of
new
My
book.
Life, and it's
Yeah.
just so the fact that it was very early on in that chapter, and this was a new Kiss
Kind of
album coming
kicking
out.
it off. Yeah.
They've always been there to make me feel better, shock me, make me feel better. So
That's right. I always say that. There's always I couldn't agree with that more. Whether it's a birth, a death, that there's always something that gets me through. There's always a connection, whether it's a different album or a different, a song or whatever.
I hear my
Just
song, it
they
pulls
always
me through,
connect. That's
comes on
right.
strong, tells me what I gotta do.
Get out.
Get up. It's funny because over the years, that's Destroyer has become a go-to album, and Detroit Rock City particularly, because if I start the CD as I'm leaving my parking spot here, the guitars kick in as I just get out of the parking lot onto the road, and
Perfect.
and many times I've used that Destroyer therapy to get myself out of a not a good place sometimes.
I feel that. Uh-oh.
I'm on one of those sense time lights where if you don't move, and
Oh,
so I'm trying. There we go.
there you
We're not
go.
doing
Let there be
video anyway.
light.
Yeah, let there be light. Come to me. Ah.
Well, speaking of Destroyer, do you think Psycho Circus is a Destroyer part two at all?
You know what? I think that they definitely, and I think it goes
Tried?
back to what they were trying to do with the
I
reunion
think so
tour
too.
was give everybody that feeling of vintage. I say vintage or classic Kiss, and I've always felt, even if you kind of go through the songs, like when you think about it, Detroit Rock City kicks off the album, has that long intro. Psycho Circus kicks off the
Long
album. That's that
intro.
long intro. Obviously, like if you go, I finally found my way is Beth,
Beth.
an attempt to really capture the magic of Beth. Even at the end, where on Beth he'll say like "all night, baby," right? On
Yeah.
this, he's like,
Yeah.
and then he's I finally found my way to
To
you, and he
you.
goes to you, baby.
Yeah.
It's like,
You know
and
what? I've never you got me. You stumped me on one. I've never put those last two together.
well, and then when you think about Dreamin', you go
Mhm.
into Dreamin' is a little heavier, but then if you go into Journey of 1,000 Years, you can see a straight line to Great Expectations
Yeah.
because it's not, first of all, like I love Journey of 1,000 Years. Now that is not a song that they were going to really want to do live because it's so like it's with the symphony and all that. It's not a rocking kind of song. I love it. I think it's very,
Hmm.
it shows especially Gene's kind of Beatle influences, and it's very cinematic.
Very Beatles. Very
That,
Beatly.
but you can kind of go through track by track and say, well, here's what they were doing. Even stuff like We Are One, you can feel We Are One in that kind of more, like again, Great Expectations kind of vibe, a little slower, not as rocking. I'll tell you a funny story about We Are One. The one year there was, and obviously for everybody that's out there, they know I work at Montgomery County Community College, and I've been
Mhm.
here a long time. What year were you born? I've been here since '98.
I was two.
Yeah, there you go. So the funny thing is, the one year, this board of trustees member who was just loved by the college and who was just the greatest guy, they had a big dinner, like a tribute dinner to him. That's what I work in the video, communications department. And they said, "Can you put together a photo montage?" And they gave me all his photos and things like that. But I'm not kidding you. I used "We Are One" as the
Oh,
theme song. Now, people in the room aren't hip to the fact that it's Kiss, obviously, and you wouldn't know. And this woman comes up at the end and she says to me, "What was that song you used? It
I
was
loved it.
beautiful." Right. And I'm laughing and I said, "You're not even going to believe me when I tell you that that's a Kiss song." And I'm telling you, Ace, to this day, her face, whoa. Really? She did not expect it. She did not see that answer coming down the street. And I remember that, it's another way that I managed to sneak some Kiss into the real world. So,
I love when that stuff like that happens.
and
And
it's
that's
great because when you think about it, even in that song when he says, I see my face looking back at me, in my mind, he's looking out at the audience and
yeah,
seeing people in his makeup. And I always thought that was such a very interesting kind of, you know,
perspective.
yeah, perspective or scenario. The idea that people are, now dressing as you, or they've got a tattoo of you, or, and I think if, as, especially, even this is, Psycho Circus comes out, it's like 30 years ago. But even then, they're a little older, and you start to reflect on, I've done something that will never go away. Kiss music, as much as, and anybody who doesn't like it would roll their eyes so hard the back of their heads
Hmm.
would hurt, but it'll always be around. And I think at some point, I always thought of Journey of 1,000 Years and We Are One specifically as the reflection on, we've had quite a path, and We Are One, especially, like, you love to think that it really is about kind of that relationship with the
With
Kiss
the
Army,
hmm
that they have always said, "Look, we wouldn't have this life unless you suckers paid all that money for our stuff or loved our music." It really so yeah, I think so anyway,
That's how
yeah,
I've always looked at that song.
yeah.
I, that's one of the things I love about it.
I think, and it's funny how almost history was repeating itself, because much like Destroyer, there's people coming in other than the band and who's playing on it, and they're not telling us, And in 1975 or 76, I'm
They were
only
doing
8
the
years
same
old.
thing.
Same thing, and you didn't know it because they kept that so secret, and you didn't, I mean, obviously, look, 1976, 75, there's no internet to tell you everything.
Right.
You didn't know. How are you going to know that? And then you listen to Psycho Circus and you kind of go, it really doesn't sound like all of them. You know what I mean? And it's like you
Could
listen to
you
it,
tell that it wasn't Ace and Peter
there's certain songs, obviously, like the
within?
when you go through it, like Within's, I think you can kind of hear, because that's more Carnival of Souls. Like, but because
Right.
you listen to it and you go, I don't think that's Ace and Peter. The one that's
Right.
specifically the one that the one that really points to the fact that it's Ace is Into the Void, because he
Hmm.
does the one thing on guitar that I can do, which is the one pickup turned up and one turned down, and you toggle switch and go get 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 get. I can do that. That's it. That's my one guitar playing thing. But the fact that that's in there, I love. And but yeah, I mean, even that, now you figure, like, I pledge allegiance to the state of rock and roll. Like, Ace has even said that his song Pursuit of Rock and Roll got rejected because of I pledge allegiance to the state of rock and roll. And I think that might even be in his book. I think that's where I read it, was that it's in his autobiography. And
Which that song ended up on his solo album,
that's
right?
on Spaceman. So if you
Yeah.
wanted to say, did they make the right choice? Like, were they wise in bumping Spaceman and going with I pledge allegiance to the state of rock and roll? Who knows? I think Pledge Allegiance to Rock and Roll reminds me more of the stuff that they would do on um, Sonic Boom or Monster. I
I
think
agree with that.
it
Yeah.
would feel more at home on Sonic Boom.
I
Boom,
would
boom.
say Sonic Boom.
Yeah, even more than Monster. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm trying to think how his solo song went, and
You know what? That
I'm
song.
blanking. Yeah, so I
It's
think they made the right call, but
he name drops like Chuck Berry and blah blah blah. Like
yeah,
that's what it is. If you remember, that song has a lot of references to kind of historical rock icons, and I don't think it's as good as "I Pledge Allegiance to the State of
no,
Rock and Roll."
that's one of the songs I when I remade the album into a playlist. It's one of the songs I kept.
I love that song. I mean, it really is like, and it's funny because I know that there are a lot of really great demos from this era that float around. And you kind of go, but I don't know that there's any of those demos. I mean, obviously we could talk about this, but I don't know that there's any of the demos that really could have bumped necessarily one of the songs off the album, except, and I will go,
I know what you're gonna say.
It's My Life. It's My Life. Now, granted, that was not a demo for Psycho Circus. And we found when Gene put out the box set that it went all the way back to like 91 or no, 81 or 82, that it was a Creatures demo. And I'm
Which
sure
it would not have fit on Creatures.
If anybody from the Kiss Fact podcast is listening, they know the exact date. I don't know the date. Julian Gill would know what year and day and time of day, that he wrote that demo. But really,
down to the second.
Well, and the definitive version is the Wendell Williams version, which a lot of people argue is that whole album is really just Gene using all the Kiss songs that didn't somehow end up on Creatures. And I mean, I think to this day that really if Gene had released a version of himself singing "It's My Life" with the fierce vocal of Wendell Williams, I don't know why that wasn't a huge hit for Kiss.
I don't either.
Even
I've said this time and time again.
And then the fact that it really had to wait till like 2001 to get on that box set, which is a good version. Now, here's the fun thing:
it's a good mix.
About it, and Ace sings on it like it. And to me, I think the key to the success of early Kiss, those early albums, is when everybody sings. Mm-hmm. All the voices together. So that's why, again, I love that version where now I get, I got a reputation. And what's his line? He says,
people know who I am.
No, Ace sings, I'm vain. They say I can't be tamed. No, it doesn't matter. And you go,
I'll wear what I like. And it's so Ace too. He says, "I'll wear what I like. I'll wear what I want."
That's a song that I know Gene has added into his solo shows, which
I love
by, because I always thought if you had to go through like all the demos that float around, that is one that absolutely should have gotten into a live setting. So I'm thrilled that Gene's doing it now. But
this album would have been perfect for it.
It would have been perfect. And how they managed to drop the ball on that again.
Time and time again. I think they wanted to put it on Crazy Nights too. Would have been great on there. Would have had a couple keyboards in it, but whatever. That album's full of that kind of those anthems and Turn on the Night, Crazy Crazy Nights, My Way.
All good songs.
It would have fit right in there.
I love it. It really is. It's something that the fact that this, It's My Life got kind of passed over so many times is one of the great Kiss mysteries. There's no doubt about it.
I think it would have been a single and a hit from this album. It's I've said this for years, how it's just the biggest missed opportunity, I think they've song-wise.
Now, obviously, the fact that you revealed very early on in this that you're 2 years old in 1998, you didn't see the tour. Now, the tour I remember seeing in like November of 98. It would have been the First Union Center in Philly. By that, Kiss had done it was the Core State Center on the reunion tour, and by a couple of years later, it's already renamed. It's now the First Union Center. And the thing that you would have missed by being only 2 years old at the time, was they gave you those glasses, and there were
Right.
songs where you were supposed to put your 3D glasses on, and then stuff on the screens was going to be 3D and all that. And it really
So you got to do that, right?
we got to do that, and I
How
was with
was
my
it?
brother. It was funny because a lot of it, and if you think about 3D movies, if you go back into the 50s, when 3D was a really fun gimmick, like Creature from the Black Lagoon and stuff, you purposely have to do stuff that goes forward. So you have
Yeah.
to reach out from the screen, and if you're watching Creature from the Black Lagoon, you have to go dun dun dun. If you were only listening on the audio, you could see my creature claw hand coming up out of the water. But they were a lot of the videos, and you've probably seen like bootlegs or whatever, but a lot of the videos were things crashing out of the screen, like explosions or the tank or cars racing forward that are supposed to like look like they're coming out into the arena. Successful, but not so memorable that I would say, oh my God. But then again, it's 1998. They don't have the technology in 98. But, now with if you've ever been to the Sphere, like that's a
I
3D, that's
did,
a
yeah.
4D kind of a thing. It's crazy. But I just remember somewhere, it's funny. I was thinking I should bring my 3D glasses today for this, but then I thought, well, we're just doing audio only.
Audio, yeah, yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
needs to see me wearing 3D glasses.
I think we might. We might.
Dun,
Now,
dun,
speaking,
dun.
well, you said the Sphere. Do you think Kiss would be? How do you think they would do at the Sphere?
I would not like it because when I was out there in November for the Kiss Cruise Expo or whatever you want to call it, I
Mhm.
saw the Wizard of Oz, and it was phenomenal. But you're watching something that is now taking place on the Sphere. So like when the Wicked Witch appeared, now you figure at that point this movie is what, 80 years old. When the
Yeah.
Wicked Witch first appeared and the entire place felt like it was shaking, and she is now 3 or 4 stories high, and an explosion goes off and a fire goes off, and I'm not kidding you, Ace, the kid next to me, he screamed like, and I laughed out loud because 80 years later, the Wicked Witch is still scaring little kids. The mom's like, don't look at it, don't look at it. I could not stop laughing because it literally was larger than life. And when the Twister comes through, there's stuff flying through the air, and they're blowing wind on you. Here's the thing: if I see Kiss, I want to see the band. And I've been lucky enough to have good seats sometimes where you're close enough to see their eyes. I
Right.
I need that. I want that kind of connection. They
That's
would,
kind of how I feel about it too.
yeah.
I saw the Eagles there, and you couldn't.
And they're a postage stamp. Like
Yeah,
you can put your
exactly.
hand in front of the stage, and I never feel like I saw Paul McCartney a long time ago, probably man, it might be 35 years ago, at the Veterans Stadium. And the funny thing is, our seats were so high up, like you could literally take your hand and put it in front of your face, and you could not see. Like if you brought your hand up, you could cover the whole stage, right? And it was just because we were as close to God as you can get without actually dying. And it was really funny that you don't feel the connection. You feel like you're watching people watching a concert. So I'm really excited to see what they do with the avatars. Now, obviously, that's going to be a number of years yet away. Which, oddly enough, if they're talking 2028, think about that. I saw a Psycho Circus tour in '98, so I'm sure if you do the math, that's like straight
Right.
line. I'm not good at math, but
I'm
it's
not either.
it's one of those things where I think it would be fun to see. I think it'll be really
Hmm.
incredible.
I'll definitely check it out. I don't understand all the hate for it that some people are giving it.
I think people, that's a whole other
It's just
podcast.
something to complain about.
It's something that people that used to be fans that now don't get enjoyment from it. Why should you get enjoyment from it if
Uh
I'm
huh.
not?
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
and you roll your eyes a little bit and you realize, look, Kiss has always been the escape. If it makes you miserable, find your thing. Kiss doesn't make me miserable. I still love it. Miserable people love other people to be miserable. I'm not that guy. So,
Amen. Amen to that. That's it's like I tell everybody, it's my escape out of any misery or, whatever, all this crazy shit going on.
amen.
It's always been the escape.
Right. And that's the thing is like, you know, and it's for me being an old dinosaur, it's been with me every part of my life. Like
Right.
when you think about it, elementary school was Kiss, and then people will, what do you think of this album? We bought them as they came out. So like when Dynasty would come out, well, that's just the new Kiss album. If I gave you if you were like, I'm 8 years old in like 1976, if I had a stack of Kiss albums, where do you go? Like if you're an 8-year-old now in 2026, what do you do with the giant stack? Do you listen in order? Do you pull out Psycho Circus? Do you pull out, where's your jumping off point going to be? And I always kind of find that's fascinating. That's why I like talking to, someone like yourself who had a different experience. Psycho Circus
Right.
was your first album. And I think that's exciting because, what was it like for somebody, so you figure you're 2 years old, this comes out. But yet you're now being able to get that experience of buying new Kiss records because they never stopped putting stuff out. And it gave you something to be excited about. And at that time, even 98, 99, like I said probably earlier, but there's no internet to tell you how to feel about it. And
It
and
was
I
a
was
much better time.
I loved it.
Even when even when Sonic Boom came out, I mean, Facebook was kind of a thing, but it wasn't as you weren't getting what you get now, to tell you how to feel or what you should like and what you shouldn't like. And I remember even when Sonic Boom came out and there was the whole Walmart thing, which
Yep.
whatever. It wasn't in our Walmart that we have here. It was like a couple shirts and some CDs, but it was still.
And the M&Ms.
I have some M&Ms up on that shelf if you can see
Right. See?
somewhere over
But
there.
even the funny thing was, even then, like I do remember being off from work that day, probably because I wanted to go get the new Kiss album, but we'll just go
Yeah.
with that. But I remember going to the store specifically when it opened just to run to the back and get the album because you remember as a kid running through the store
That
to get
feeling. There's a
the
new Kiss album out, you
there's
know?
a feeling to it. There's a feeling. And I think people don't always get that feeling when, well, here's something new to download. It was a tangible thing to run through the store and buy an album or buy a CD
Yeah.
that's still part of the experience, I think. Now when you get things like to me, one of the albums that has really revitalized for me just sitting and listening has been that Destroyer box set. Because a lot of time I'll listen on my way to work, I'll listen to them on my way home from work. You get your life kind of gets busier. That sitting down and really just sitting and focusing gets tough sometimes. I made
Very.
a point. I take those CDs and you figure it came with a boatload of extras. So you're listening to the songs, you're looking at all that extra merch. It really and that remix, the mix, and if obviously everybody that follows David Frangione and he's showing you all the
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff.
Did he
And
do the Destroyer one too? Or was it Dress to Kill?
he did. I mean, the ones that I've seen was him talking about Dress to Kill, and he'll
Those
play
were awesome.
specific songs. And did you ever hear this acoustic part? And you're like, you know, the
Yeah.
I really love that, and I think that's one of those things where that box set and the Alive box set, but it really revitalized to me that I need to sit here and just listen, not be on my phone or not be just driving. But the old days when really what I would have been doing is probably laying on the floor and drawing. But but
Tracing the outlines.
you wanted to draw, or that was like my favorite thing. But like now I will sit in my own little Kiss room at home and crank it up.
No pun
And
intended. The Kiss
no, and
room.
that's why it's called the Kiss room, because everybody
That's what I
has
call down here.
You have your Kiss room. That's why
Yeah.
when I started the show, I called it that because I knew everybody would identify with it. Because everybody who would actually have an interest in the show has a Kiss room or a music room or a Kiss shelf or your Kiss closet or the Kiss curio cabinet filled with all your stuff. And I knew that, I mean, that's why I called my show the Kiss Room, because I knew it would give people a certain kind of a feeling
Connection.
when, that to it. So it's
Well, that's what when we met you, I said to my dad, I said, he's got a podcast. It's called The Kiss Room. See, he has one too. It's not just me.
yeah, I mean, that's the fun thing. I started that. I mean, in my mind, it was never really a podcast. It was a radio show that
Okay,
I
that's
then
right.
would
Yeah, yeah,
upload. So
yeah.
I always call it a Kiss radio show, because that's why it really started. Was and if you really, I don't know if you really ever listened that far back, but
I listened to it on, yeah.
one of the reasons why I started was, and anybody, if you're familiar with any of my Kiss Room episodes, is Kiss was supposed to play here at Montgomery County Community College on May 11th, 1974. And now you figure the poster that I have shows, I found it in Rolling Stone, and it has Gene breathing fire, and it's the debut album. The dates on it, you figure they're now only months out of New York. Like they're signed
Right,
that album comes
right.
out in February, and now they're advertising a date, May 11th, 1974, Montgomery County Community College gym in Bluebell. But it did not ever happen. So my friend that worked in the library actually found in what's called the Mont Gazette, which was the school newspaper, that, and then think about this, Kiss was not even the headliner. They were the opener
No,
for Argent.
for
Hold your
Argent.
head up. Oh, or God gave Rocky. Don't
Yeah,
don't
that
step on
version of that
snails, and
song.
right. And so
The
it never did
snails.
happen,
Yeah, the
right?
snails.
Because they could not come to the agreement on the usual things it says in the article: lack of money, lack of time, and the inability to provide a forklift and a perfectly tuned grand piano. So almost our place in history. But that's my goal, was always to try and bring
Bring
some
them
Kiss
back.
to Montco in some way. And it was just that was my way to do it. Was first they were just Kiss specials. I would sneak on and do it usually around my birthday, which is in the start of the year, so nobody would be around. Everybody was still on winter break, and I would sneak
Yeah,
in.
yeah. You
Or
could sneak
spring
it right
break,
in.
when yeah, exactly. I would look, nobody's doing their show this week. I can just, it's spring break. But I had to be here, so I would do it, during spring break. And then the one May
Sounds like the
11th,
best week of the year.
it was always fun. And then like May 11th, 2012, I had done one and gotten so much good feedback from people that I bought thekissroom.com, bought space to host it, made it a thing. And that's all those years ago.
That's your little piece in history.
My tiny little niche.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, well, what about that? Yeah. One last thing on the songs. One other song that I think really, back to the Psycho Circus, I wanted to, before we wrap it up, Sweet and Dirty.
And Gene finally ended up putting it out on the A-Hole album. I love
Yeah,
that song. That's another one that is killer, that really, it's funny. That's when you go, how do you not put that on? Like
yeah.
that's a rocker. And I mean, it really, there's
You could have a
definitely
1-2 punch of Psycho Circus into Sweet and Dirty.
perfect idea.
And
That
why not?
Why not? It is funny. It does make you look at things and go, why were certain songs put on the back burner? And you go,
Yeah.
what was it about that song? Because I love that song. I love the version on Gene's solo CD.
Yeah.
Just
I have that one inserted into my Psycho Circus playlist.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic song. It's one of those things where that you just have to look and go, how'd you skip this one?
Yeah. And I mean, and on Gene's, you got Eric Singer on the drums, and you got Bruce Kulick on guitar. So I mean, it's kind of a Kiss version.
I've
Revenge.
always said that the part where You're built for speed. I'm built for. That's Paul
Yeah,
Stanley. I swear that's Paul. Now people claim
I
it's
hear
not,
that. I
but
hear that. I've
it
always
sounds
said
like
that.
his voice, and people will argue that it's not, and maybe it's not, but it always sounded like it was
I
to me.
have said that for years. And then they'd say, you're too, what is it? Too much of a good thing, but it's much
Much
too.
too good.
Yeah, he is in there. I've said this for years.
Right. And for whatever reason, if he's not credited or for whatever reason, but yeah, I love that song.
That
That's a whole other podcast.
I know.
Gene's A-hole album, because people either absolutely love it or absolutely hate it. But
We could
I
do that
think
next time because I'm a huge fan of that
I
album.
really enjoy that album. I mean, I think it's fantastic. And we talked about Destroyer drawing a straight line to Psycho Circus. Gene's 78 solo album draws a straight line to the
To
A-hole.
oh
I
04
mean, it's
A-hole. Right
'cause
into the A-hole album.
it's so yeah, it's hard to say, because if you go, Gene Simmons 78 solo goes right into the Gene Simmons asshole. You just can't say it.
You can't say it. It's just not. Just doesn't work. Or like when I typed it into my search the other day and it's Gene Simmons asshole. I go, that doesn't sound right.
It's tough. It's tough. Which I'm sure it's why he named it that. I'm sure it's why, when Howard
Yeah.
Stern did Howard Stern's Private Parts.
Yeah. Great
Same
movie.
effect.
Fantastic movie. I just read he brought his he laid off like a dozen employees today
Ugh.
or yesterday, and he's going down to 1 day a week.
Ugh. When I remember when Howard came to Philadelphia, they syndicated him into Philly, and at the time, where I had a good hour-long drive to college every day, and I loved it. I thought Howard Stern was the greatest. Like, you never heard anything like it.
He was.
But we're talking, that's like, I think that's the summer of '86, and I would listen every day, and plus the fact there was no way to, if you missed it, you missed it, because there was no replay.
Yeah, there's no replay. There was no going back, rewinding.
And then then years later, like, I definitely remember 1991-ish, David Lee Roth was going to be on, and I really wanted to hear, but I had to go into work. So what I did, I remember putting a tape in and recording the entire interview, like leaving the machine running, and then I had to go to work. But then I could listen to it at night. So, and I loved that, because now you're not rushing around. You could actually just stop and relax. So I probably still have a couple.
You probably have all those old.
I have a couple hundred tapes that are from when he really was the best. And people out there, if you're not a Howard Stern fan, are going, Howard Stern was never the best, like,
yeah, he was.
But he really was the best, and he changed.
You got to convert those tapes, man. I listen to the replays on YouTube all the time.
I really do need to convert them, because I have a little boombox that every once in a while swallows one of the tapes, and because now you figure they're getting on 30 years old, and it swallows one of the tapes, and then I cry a little bit, because they wear out. And there's some that I have listened to over and over, but that was way off. That was a tangent way off the road. That was somewhere in the weeds.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, really, Psycho Circus, that's, like I said, I think a lot of it is it's very similar in a lot of ways to things like Destroyer, a lot of the history of bringing other people in. I'm fascinated just by, the fact that by the time this came out, you're still a young kid. And that I really always enjoy talking to younger people who got into it much, who became Kiss fans, obviously much later than me, because obviously I'm an old dinosaur. But the whole idea was, what was that experience like? Like, what was it like to somebody, as a 6-year-old or whatever in 1998, when I was a 6-year-old in 1976. So,
well, I had to be older than 2, but
maybe
when I actually first heard it, maybe he didn't just get the album, but it was. I remember that was the first time I heard it, and it was electric.
Yeah.
And
you were still buying a physical copy. That's
it was fun to look at the cover art. It was fun to look at the liner notes.
And think about that. This one had that lenticular cover.
Yeah.
So that was even, again, Kiss.
I remember playing with it at the dinner table.
Right. And if you remember way back, and you don't because you weren't born, but remember baseball cards that you had to do that with? They used to
Yeah,
come in
my
the
dad
cereal
had
box.
some of those.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Your dad's probably my age. So it's really it's funny, but I thought, look, they're still trying to do different things.
yeah.
And Ace, you figure Ace did that when he put out the album. There's a version of it that where
Anomaly.
well, there's a version of 10,000 volts that has lightning bolts around him, and if you tilt it, it's got the lightning bolts
The hologram
kind
thing.
of fly in and out. Like
Yeah.
they always were doing
That was
something fun.
10,000. I know he did that with Anomaly.
Well,
I think.
Anomaly
No, he
had
had
more
that
of the.
statue,
It was like a pyramid or something like
pyramid
that.
statue, or like a
The
cutout cardboard thing. Yeah,
Right. And I love it when they still do interesting things with the cover.
yeah,
I mean, obviously, Kiss with some of the greatest album covers of all time. And I thought it was funny that at the time, the guy from the Insane Clown Posse was like, "Oh, Gene Simmons, stole from me," and you go, "Come on,
come on,
Insane Clown
buddy.
Posse, you suck!" Like, nobody's stealing from the Insane Clown. "Oh, but
Nobody.
I'm an evil clown, and oh yeah, you were the one that thought of that. It's like,
Uh-huh.
come on,
Yeah, you're just a clown.
you're just a clown, right? Gene's the god of thunder. Go f yourself, Insane Clown Posse.
I feel like they did something on Howard Stern too. That
They
was
used to be on Howard Stern all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. God.
Knuckleheads. And even when you think about this, like the video, there's that video for Psycho Circus had the 3D. And it's the same thing. Everybody that's out there watching, when you go back and watch that, they do a lot of that. Like Gene is spitting blood, and it's supposed to
Yeah,
be coming
it's
out.
hitting the screen, and I
So
think Ace is holding his guitar up, and it's supposed to be looking like it's coming out of the screen, right?
right, and there's that like rocket ship kind of thing. And so I mean that
Yeah,
if you can find a copy of the video for that, that'll give you a pretty good idea of what that show, kind of what they were trying to put forth with the 3D. So still good fun.
they tried,
They're trying.
but it's still getting such nostalgia watching that music video because it'll pop up time to time on my YouTube, and I just takes me back to my childhood home in the living room. You know?
And they were back. I mean, like to me,
Yeah,
really, the 90, the reunion tour, 96, 97, magic, absolutely magic as a Kiss fan. And then it was like they were continuing. Now there was a music video with them in the makeup and the costumes. So I love that. I love that they did a lot of that kind of promotional stuff. If you go back and find it, it's still super fun to watch. I have a
yeah,
couple of those VHSs because if you got the VHS, it came with a different in your face CD. And I think I only ever got the
yeah.
ones with Ace, and I got the one with Peter. But at some point, even then, how many versions are you going to buy? Well, probably too many, but
4. Oh man. Well, you think you've said it all, Matt.
It's fun. I mean, good luck with your new podcast. I love this kind of stuff. I still listen to a lot of podcasts. Obviously, it's fun to listen to Kiss podcasts and get other people's takes on stuff. There's a lot of really good Kiss podcasts still that are out there. So it's fun to really dive in and that's the thing. You get different perspectives. Where did people see, like even, talking about just focusing on Psycho Circus. Where did you see it? What's your experience with the concert? I love those. That's what I really like. I want to hear people tell their memory of something that
That's
happened.
what this is all about,
And even
That
when you
exactly
sent me a
where we came
message,
from.
well, when you sent me a message, well, do you want to debate anything? I said, I never debate. I celebrate
Celebrate.
everything I tell you. You can fact check based on if you were with me at the Denny's and I'm eating a cheeseburger and talking about Kiss. It's just I try and base all the stuff that I do on my show on something that happened to me. I'm trying not to, like, what was my experience buying this?
Yeah.
Where was I? What show did I see? And I think that's always, it's genuine. I'm not just Wikipedia and then Bruce Fairburn.
Let me give you the
What do I need that?
stats. Let me give you the stats of this. Yeah, right, exactly.
So what are you thinking as far as your podcast? Where do you see it going?
I just want to talk Kiss, and if one person gets some enjoyment out of it, that I did my job.
It's all about, really, I always say, look, it really is all about the Kiss Army, because that's who's tuning in.
We're
And if
celebrating.
they can say, I feel better because I listened to your show, or I relate to that because I had that same experience, that's what it all comes down to.
That's it, brother.
So yeah, I'm honored to be an early adopter here on the show.
You are.
And,
You are.
so good luck with that. I mean, obviously, I will yammer on any topic, and so will most people. So, but if you ever need a guest, let me know.
Appreciate it, Matt. You are the man. And if you guys want to go listen to Matt's show, go over to the Kiss Room. You're all over the place.
TheKissRoom.com. The latest episodes are usually right at the top.
It's a great show. Go listen to it.
Thanks, Ace.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening to Aces Asylum. We'll catch you next time. Later.